appreciate you taking the time to talk with me about your latest film, The Roses, and thank you so much for being so accommodating with your time as well. I really appreciate it.
Oh, no worries. Glad to be here. Thanks for your interest.
Yeah, so I wanted to ask you about your interest, primarily with the original Danny DeVito film starring Michael Douglas, Kathleen Turner. Like, what was your relationship like with that original film? Did you originally see it in a theater? Tell me about that.
Oh, yeah. I saw it in a theater in the 80s when it came out, and always, just howled watching it. I've seen it a few times since then, and I'm such a big Danny DeVito fan. I got to work with Danny when he played Mini-Me in Austin Powers 3. And I love the guy, and he's worked with my editor. I've known him for a while, but it was daunting thinking about remaking it, just because it was so good and funny and pretty audacious for its time. But Benedict Cumberbatch and Olivia Colman had been working on this with Tony McNamara, and so when they sent me that script and I saw how different it was and that it really is a reimagining more than a full-on remake. It's called The Roses as opposed to War of the Roses, because it's got another kind of layer to it that's more almost like a old-fashioned remarriage comedy or something, with all that Preston Sturges kind of dialogue those films used to have. Tony is a master dialogue writer, and he's a playwright, and he wrote The Great and Poor Things and The Favorite. So his commitment to caring about what the characters care about, which is trying to keep it together, and you think they're almost going to be able to do that throughout the entire film. And I felt like, well, that's different. It still has a lot of the dark comedy and craziness, but it's got this other, emotional layer too, which I really admired and enjoyed, especially when you think of Olivia and Benedict playing those two characters.
Yeah, and so when you're reading through Tony's savage screenplay, is there a particular line of dialogue or something that leaps out at you that makes you go, I must do this?
It was the dinner scene when the Americans, who are so envious of the couple's ability to kind of tease each other and trash each other and even say horrible things about each other and still trust each other enough to be romantic and to get each other's sense of humor. And so that scene where I really related to the Americans, because I always think British people sound so much smarter and just more wit, much more dry wit. And so watching the Americans, even in the script, having the Americans try to imitate it and completely flame out and just say horrible things without any of the irony or any of the comedy. So, but it becomes funny in another way. So that's that was the scene, and throwing in all those other great actors into that, Kate McKinnon and Andy Samberg and Chudy and Sunita and all those people, Zoe Chow and Jamie Demetrio. I mean, like he becomes even on the page, it was great, but then adding that cast, it's a real fiesta.
So Cumberbatch and Coleman were already on board. You didn't have to go about casting them or anything like that.
They were there, and they're producing companies that developed it with Tony and Searchlight. Searchlight was working with them at the time, and then I got to know Tony and I met Benedict, and somehow it all came up at the same time that, hey, why don't you think about this? And I did have that moment thing. I was like, oh, is it a remake? And then I read it. So, I mean, this is amazing. And let's go.
Yeah, absolutely. So when you're constructing these sequences, montages, if you will, even of the two of them like getting back at each other in various ways, there was one moment in particular that really jumped out at me, and that's a moment where Benedict Cumberbatch is relaxing in the bathtub. Mm-hmm. And I was just really curious, in that particular moment, was there ever a moment where Benedict or Olivia were hesitant about diving deep into how savage some of the antics would get, or were they just game for anything?
They were pretty game. I mean, I think they dark comedy as much as I did. I didn't know how much I would enjoy doing something that dark. I've had some edge in our films, and there's always a bit of an anxiety dream factor, like in Meet the Parents or something. But but they're the ability. Tony just has this ability to stretch the tone where that you can still have the emotion and the comedy, but you can also revel in some of the darker instincts, which I think is actually, it felt more therapeutic to me in some way, because real life is that way. There's a lot of dark, dark aspects to relationships, and to get that whole tone from very painful moments, all the way to very, very funny, shared, bonding over comedy things. I love it. I'd love to do more like that.
Yeah. Because Dio is a successful architect, that lends itself pretty remarkably towards the production design of this movie. I need to know where you found his dream house in this film.
Well, we didn't. We made it.
No. Oh, that's amazing.
Yeah, the whole thing is, a creation. Our amazing production designer, Mark Ricker, designed the whole thing. It was actually really early, way before anything else was going on. I was trying to talk him into it, and he just he wasn't sure, and then he just sketched it all out. And then we built the interior on the stage, and found a location with a beautiful setting, but the house is all visual effects on that cliff. So it's a complete creation, because and in a way that's perfect, because it is a dream house. She calls it that over and over. And so we dreamed it up and then put it on that cliff.
Well, it was definitely an amazing house. I looked at it and thought to myself, wow, I want to live in that. At the end of the movie, I found myself walking out of the theater and having a very contentious debate with some of my fellow colleagues about whose side we were on throughout this movie, who we felt escalated it, started it, who could have ended it, et cetera, et cetera. I know that the point is that they're both to blame to some degree or another. I understand that. I wanted to ask you personally, did you find yourself at any point feeling more sympathetic towards one side or the other?
Absolutely. I mean, I think you do find yourself being aghast at each person's behavior at one point or another in the film, but there's no villains really in this one. I think the only real villain is ego. We get lost in our ambition, or our identity crises, and they're trying to figure it out, and they keep trying. That's one of the things I loved about Tony's script, is they try till the very end and they almost figure it out, like really figure it out. And I think that the caring that much, prevents either of them from becoming the monster at fault. They behave monstrously, but in ways that they just get lost, in their own selfishness. And I think I'm glad to hear you had a talk like that after the film, because I've noticed that a lot of couples come out of the film kind of talking about, maybe we should communicate a little bit more. Maybe we should talk through some of these things and pay attention, and not take certain things for granted while we're also chasing our, career dreams or identity dreams. And that's I love hearing that. I like that it could be a kind of very dark therapy for people who watch the film.
And without giving away any spoilers as we wrap up here, do you have a favorite particular line from McNamara's screenplay that still makes you laugh or resonates with you? Yeah.
Love when Benedict, after in the middle of a discussion about how they're going to raise their kids, Benedict says, how about a 3-hour circular argument that goes nowhere? And he says it in such a seductive, funny way that's so counter to the actual content of it. It cracked me up. It was really funny. And look, we had amazing lines from all our cast. Too, Tony's script is so amazing, but when you throw Kate McKinnon and Andy Samberg, they're gonna play around with some of the dialogue as well. And there's some really funny stuff they do.
It's definitely witty. It's definitely, as I mentioned before, savage in how brutal the jabs are at one another. And it just continues to escalate to a point where it becomes an explosive finale. So, Jay, congratulations on the film. And thank you once again for your time here today. I really appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you, Matthew. Nice to talk to you.
You too.
Take care.